In the heart of southwest London, behind towering Victorian walls and layers of steel gates, stands one of Britain's most notorious prisons. HMP Wandsworth is not just another correctional facility. It is one of the largest and most overcrowded prisons in the United Kingdom. A place where thousands of inmates pass through every year while awaiting trial or serving short sentences. Built in the 19th century, the prison was designed during an era when Victorian authorities believed discipline and isolation were the keys to reforming criminals. But more than a century later, the institution has become a symbol of a much larger crisis inside the British prison system. The prison opened in 1851, originally built to house around 1,000 prisoners. At the time, it was considered modern, structured around the Victorian separate system, a philosophy that believed criminals should spend long periods in isolation to reflect on their crimes and reform their behavior. Massive brick walls surrounded the complex, while narrow corridors and barred cells formed a grid-like layout inside. Each wing stretched outward from a central hub, allowing guards to observe multiple corridors from a single vantage point. The design was meant to impose order and control, but over time the prison population grew far beyond what its architects had ever imagined. Today, HMP Wandsworth holds more than 1,300 inmates, making it one of the busiest prisons in the country. Unlike maximum security prisons such as Belmarsh or Frankland, Wandsworth is primarily a Category B prison. That means it houses prisoners who are considered dangerous, but not so extreme that they require the very highest level of security. Many inmates are on remand, meaning they have not yet been convicted and are awaiting trial in London's courts. Others are serving shorter sentences for crimes ranging from drug offences to violent assaults. The constant flow of prisoners moving in and out of the facility creates a tense and unpredictable environment. One of the defining characteristics of Wandsworth is overcrowding. Cells originally designed for one prisoner now often hold two. In some cases, inmates sleep in bunk beds, squeezed into spaces barely large enough for a single occupant. The prison's aging infrastructure struggles to handle the strain of a modern population, far larger than what the building was intended for. Plumbing systems fail, heating systems break down, and maintenance crews work continuously just to keep the facility operational. Critics say these conditions create a volatile atmosphere, where frustration builds quickly among prisoners who already feel trapped inside a system that offers little relief. Walking through the prison's interior reveals just how old the structure truly is. Long stone corridors echo with the sound of metal doors slamming shut. The wings rise multiple stories high, with narrow walkways overlooking the central floor below. Iron railings line the upper tiers, while security cameras watch every movement along the corridors. Despite modern upgrades, the prison still carries the unmistakable feel of a 19th century institution, a reminder that Britain's prison system continues to rely on infrastructure built during a completely different era. Violence inside the prison has been a recurring concern for years. Overcrowding and understaffing have created conditions where tensions can escalate quickly. Reports from inspectors and prison watchdogs have described frequent fights between inmates, assaults on prison staff, and the growing presence of gangs operating within the facility. In such an environment, maintaining order requires constant vigilance from officers who must balance discipline with the realities of a prison population under significant stress. Drugs are another major problem inside Wandsworth. Like many prisons across the United Kingdom, the facility has struggled to prevent contraband from entering its walls. Smuggling methods range from packages thrown over the outer perimeter walls to drones delivering narcotics directly into exercise yards. In some cases, visitors or corrupt insiders have also been implicated in smuggling operations. Once drugs enter the prison, they quickly spread through inmate networks, creating underground markets that fuel debt, intimidation, and violence. Life inside the prison follows a strict routine, but even routine can feel oppressive in such crowded conditions. Prisoners are typically locked inside their cells for long periods each day, sometimes more than 20 hours, depending on staffing levels and security concerns. During limited periods outside their cells, inmates may attend work assignments, education classes, or exercise sessions in the yard. For many prisoners, these brief moments outside the cell represent the only opportunity to move freely, interact with others, and escape the claustrophobic environment of their living quarters. Prison staff face immense challenges managing such a large population within an aging facility. Officers must supervise hundreds of inmates across multiple wings, often working long shifts in a high-pressure environment where incidents can erupt without warning. Staffing shortages have frequently been reported, leaving fewer officers responsible for maintaining control over increasingly complex situations. When tensions rise inside the prison, the consequences can be dangerous for both inmates and staff members alike. Despite these difficulties, Wandsworth remains a central part of the London justice system. Because of its location, the prison serves as a key holding facility for courts across the capital. Every day, prison vans transport inmates from the prison to nearby courthouses, where they appear before judges and juries. After hearings conclude, many return to their cells to wait for the next stage of their legal proceedings. This constant movement of prisoners in and out of the facility adds another layer of complexity to daily operations. Over the decades, the prison has housed a number of high-profile inmates whose cases captured national attention, from organized crime figures to individuals accused of serious violent offenses. Wandsworth has often been the temporary home for defendants awaiting trial in some of Britain's most widely reported criminal cases. These high-profile prisoners bring additional media attention and security challenges, requiring careful management by prison authorities to prevent conflicts and maintain safety. Yet the true story of Wandsworth is not just about notorious prisoners or historic architecture. It is about the broader pressures facing modern prison systems around the world. Rising incarceration rates, limited funding, and aging facilities have combined to create environments where institutions struggle to fulfill their intended purpose of punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation. In Wandsworth, these pressures are visible in every corridor, every crowded cell, and every daily routine that unfolds behind its massive brick walls. For the prisoners who live there, the experience can feel like existing inside a system, constantly stretched to its limits. For staff members tasked with maintaining order, the challenge is to manage thousands of individuals within a structure that was never designed for modern demands. And for the public, the prison remains a powerful symbol of how societies respond to crime and punishment, balancing the need for security with questions about fairness, rehabilitation, and the conditions under which people are confined. Beyond the walls of the prison, debates continue about the future of Britain's correctional system. Some experts argue that facilities like Wandsworth highlight the urgent need for reform, including investment in newer prisons and alternatives to incarceration for certain offenses. Others believe stricter enforcement and expanded capacity are necessary to address rising crime. Whatever the solution, one thing is clear. The challenges faced by HMP Wandsworth reflect deeper tensions within the justice system itself, and as long as the prison continues to operate at or beyond its intended capacity, the story of Wandsworth will remain a story not only about a single institution, but about the ongoing struggle to manage crime, punishment, and rehabilitation within a system under increasing strain. Inside HMP Wandsworth, daily life is governed by a strict and repetitive routine designed to maintain order within a population that can easily exceed 1,300 inmates. The day usually begins early, often before sunrise, when prison officers conduct the first roll checks along the wings. Metal doors rattle as guards move down the corridors, confirming that every prisoner is present and accounted for. For inmates, the sound of keys and footsteps echoing through the prison wings marks the beginning of another day behind the walls. Breakfast inside the prison is simple and functional rather than satisfying. Meals are typically delivered directly to the wings and handed out through cell doors. Prisoners may receive items such as cereal, bread, or porridge along with tea. The food is not designed to be luxurious. It is meant to meet basic nutritional needs, while remaining affordable within the prison system's limited budget. For inmates who have money in their prison accounts, small items like snacks, coffee, or extra food can sometimes be purchased through the prison canteen, offering a small sense of personal choice in an otherwise controlled environment. After breakfast, some inmates are allowed out of their cells for work assignments or educational programs. These activities are intended to provide structure and rehabilitation opportunities. Workshops inside Wandsworth may include jobs such as cleaning, maintenance, kitchen duties, or other basic labor tasks that help keep the prison running. Educational classes also exist for prisoners who wish to improve literacy, complete qualifications, or prepare for life after release. However, overcrowding and staff shortages often limit how many prisoners can participate in these programs on any given day. For many inmates, long periods are still spent locked inside their cells. The cramped conditions make these hours particularly difficult, especially when two prisoners must share a space originally built for one. The cells themselves are small, typically containing bunk beds, a small desk or shelf, and a toilet unit. Privacy is almost non-existent, and the constant presence of another inmate can create tension that builds over time. Arguments between cellmates are common, sometimes escalating into fights that require intervention from prison officers. Exercise periods provide one of the few opportunities for inmates to move around freely within a controlled environment. Prisoners may be escorted to the yard where they can walk, talk with other inmates, or simply spend time outdoors. Even these moments are closely monitored by officers stationed around the perimeter of the yard. Security cameras observe the area, while guards watch for signs of trouble. Knowing that even minor disputes can quickly escalate when large groups of inmates gather in the same space. The presence of gangs within Wandsworth has also been a growing concern. Many prisoners arrive already connected to criminal networks operating outside the prison. Once inside, these affiliations can continue to influence behavior and alliances among inmates. Some gangs attempt to control certain areas of the prison wings, using intimidation to maintain influence over other prisoners. Debt related to drugs or gambling can lead to threats or violence, creating a climate where weaker inmates may feel constantly at risk. Prison officers must constantly monitor these dynamics while maintaining authority across the wings. Their role is demanding, requiring both physical presence and psychological awareness of shifting tensions among prisoners. Officers are trained to identify signs of conflict before it escalates, but the sheer number of inmates within the facility makes this task extremely difficult. A single altercation between prisoners can quickly attract attention from others nearby, turning a small incident into a larger disturbance. Drug use inside the prison continues to complicate these challenges. Synthetic drugs, often known on the streets as spice, have become particularly problematic within British prisons. These substances are powerful and unpredictable, sometimes causing severe reactions among users. Prisoners under the influence may behave erratically, creating dangerous situations that officers must manage carefully. The presence of these drugs also fuels the underground economy inside the prison, where inmates trade goods, services, and favors to obtain contraband. Debt within the prison can be especially dangerous. When prisoners borrow money or drugs and fail to repay what they owe, the consequences can be severe. Intimidation, assault, and coercion may follow as gangs attempt to enforce repayment. Some vulnerable inmates become targets of exploitation, pressured into smuggling contraband or carrying out tasks for more powerful prisoners. Prison authorities attempt to identify and protect these vulnerable individuals, but the complex social dynamics within the prison often make intervention difficult. Healthcare is another critical aspect of prison life. Medical staff operates within the facility to treat both physical and mental health issues among inmates. Many prisoners arrive with existing medical conditions or mental health challenges that require attention. Doctors and nurses work within the prison to provide treatment, but the demand for services can be overwhelming. Mental health concerns are particularly common among inmates who struggle with the psychological impact of confinement, isolation from family, and uncertainty about their future. Visits from family members can provide one of the few emotional lifelines for prisoners inside Wandsworth. During scheduled visiting hours, inmates may meet relatives in designated visitation areas, where conversations take place under supervision. These moments allow prisoners to maintain connections with the outside world, offering encouragement and support that can be vital during long periods of incarceration. However, visits are tightly controlled, and security checks ensure that no contraband enters the facility during these meetings. Communication with the outside world also takes place through monitored phone systems installed within the prison wings. Prisoners may call approved contacts during designated times, but every call is recorded and subject to monitoring by authorities. Letters remain another traditional form of communication, although all incoming and outgoing mail is inspected to prevent the transfer of illegal items or hidden messages between inmates and criminal networks outside the prison. For many prisoners, the uncertainty of the legal process adds another layer of stress. Those awaiting trial may spend months inside Wandsworth before their cases reach court. During this time, they must adapt to prison life while dealing with the anxiety of not knowing what their future holds. Court appearances interrupt the routine, as prisoners are transported in secure vehicles to London courthouses before returning to the prison at the end of the day. At night, the prison returns to a quieter, but still tense atmosphere. Cells are locked once again, and the long corridors grow silent, except for the occasional footsteps of officers conducting security checks. Behind each metal door, prisoners settle into their confined spaces, knowing that the same routine will begin again in the morning. For some, the routine becomes a coping mechanism that helps them endure their time inside. For others, the repetitive cycle intensifies the psychological strain of incarceration. Even after more than a century of operation, HMP Wandsworth continues to stand as one of Britain's most recognized prisons. Its towering walls remain a visible landmark in London, reminding the public of the complex realities that exist within the country's justice system. The prison holds individuals accused or convicted of serious crimes. Yet it also reflects broader debates about overcrowding, prison reform, and the future of incarceration in modern society. And while life inside Wandsworth continues day after day under strict rules and heavy security, the challenges facing the prison system outside its walls remain just as significant. As prison populations grow and facilities age, institutions like Wandsworth are forced to operate under increasing pressure, raising important questions about how societies balance punishment, rehabilitation, and public safety. Over the years, HMP Wandsworth has frequently appeared in national headlines, not only because of its size, but also because of the problems that arise from operating such a large and aging prison in the middle of one of the world's busiest cities. Reports from prison inspectors and watchdog organizations have repeatedly highlighted the difficulties faced by both inmates and staff. These reports often point to overcrowding, deteriorating infrastructure, and the ongoing challenge of maintaining safety in a prison that was never designed to hold the number of people it houses today. One of the most significant concerns raised by inspectors involves the physical condition of the prison itself. The building's Victorian architecture, while historically significant, presents serious practical problems for modern prison management. Narrow corridors and old cell blocks limit the ability to install newer security technologies. Electrical systems and plumbing networks, originally constructed in the 19th century, must constantly be repaired and upgraded just to remain functional. In some wings, peeling paint, damaged fixtures, and aging brickwork reveal just how long the structure has been in operation. Maintenance teams work daily to keep the prison operational, but repairing a facility of this size is an ongoing challenge. Even small issues such as broken locks, leaking pipes, or damaged windows can create security risks if not addressed quickly. Because the prison remains fully occupied almost every day, maintenance crews often have to work around prisoners and officers, making repairs in confined spaces, while the normal routine of the prison continues around them. The scale of the prison population also creates logistical challenges that affect nearly every part of daily operations. Feeding more than 1,000 inmates requires careful coordination within the prison kitchens. Staff must prepare meals in large quantities, while ensuring that food safety and hygiene standards are maintained. Delivery of meals across multiple wings must be organized precisely to prevent delays or conflicts among inmates waiting for their food. Transportation to and from the prison also requires significant planning. Each day, prison vans arrive to transport inmates to court appearances across London. Some prisoners may travel only a few miles to nearby courts, while others are taken to more distant locations, depending on where their cases are being heard. Security procedures during these transfers are strict. Prisoners are searched, restrained when necessary, and escorted by trained officers, who remained responsible for their custody throughout the journey. Within the prison walls, security measures continue to evolve as authorities respond to emerging threats. Surveillance cameras now monitor many areas of the facility, providing officers with additional tools to detect suspicious activity. Search teams regularly inspect cells and communal areas for hidden contraband, while intelligence officers track information about gang activity and potential disturbances. These efforts aim to maintain control within an environment where tensions can shift rapidly. Despite these measures, prison authorities acknowledge that controlling a population as large as Wandsworth's remains a constant challenge. Officers must balance firm enforcement of rules with efforts to prevent unnecessary escalation. In a setting where hundreds of individuals live in close proximity, even minor disagreements can grow into serious confrontations if not addressed early. Officers rely heavily on experience and awareness to recognize warning signs before conflicts become violent. Another issue that has drawn public attention is the mental health of prisoners held within the facility. Many inmates arrive at Wandsworth already dealing with psychological stress related to their legal situations, family separation, or past trauma. The confined and often crowded environment of the prison can intensify these pressures. Mental health professionals working within the prison attempt to provide counseling and treatment, but the demand for services frequently exceeds available resources. Self-harm and suicide prevention are also critical concerns within British prisons, including Wandsworth. Staff receive training to identify signs of distress among prisoners and intervene when necessary. Special monitoring procedures may be used for inmates considered to be at higher risk. These interventions require coordination between officers, medical staff, and mental health professionals who work together to support vulnerable individuals while maintaining the overall security of the prison. Education and rehabilitation programs remain an important part of the prison's mission. Even amid these challenges, some inmates participate in vocational training designed to prepare them for employment after release. Workshops may teach practical skills such as carpentry, cleaning services, or basic technical work. Educational courses offer opportunities for prisoners to improve reading, writing, or mathematics skills, which can be essential for reintegration into society. However, participation in these programs is often limited by the realities of prison operations, staff shortages, security concerns, and the large number of inmates competing for limited program spaces can reduce access to these opportunities. As a result, some prisoners spend much of their time confined to their cells without meaningful activities. A situation that critics argue contributes to frustration and negative behavior inside the prison. Outside the prison walls, debates about the future of Wandsworth continue among policymakers and criminal justice experts. Some argue that the facility should eventually be replaced with newer prisons designed to meet modern standards of safety and rehabilitation. Others believe that renovating and expanding existing institutions may be a more practical solution given the high cost of building entirely new facilities. Whatever decision is made, the challenges faced by Wandsworth highlight broader questions about how the prison system should evolve to address the needs of a changing society. The prison's location in London also places it under constant public scrutiny. Unlike remote facilities hidden far from major population centers, Wandsworth sits within a busy urban area, surrounded by residential neighborhoods. Its tall walls and watchtowers are visible reminders of the justice system operating within the city itself. For local residents, the prison is simply part of the landscape. But for those inside, it represents a completely different world, separated by layers of security and strict rules. For prisoners awaiting trial, time inside Wandsworth can feel especially uncertain. Without knowing how long they will remain in custody or what the outcome of their cases will be, many inmates experience significant anxiety. Court delays and legal processes can extend their time in custody far longer than expected, forcing them to adapt to prison life even before a verdict is reached. As the days pass within the prison's walls, the rhythm of confinement continues uninterrupted. Officers conduct checks, prisoners follow routines, and the complex machinery of the justice system moves forward one case at a time. Wandsworth remains both a functioning institution and a symbol of the pressures facing modern prisons in the United Kingdom. And while the prison continues to operate under the weight of its long history and present-day challenges, the story of Wandsworth is still unfolding, shaped by the lives of the thousands of individuals who pass through its gates each year and by the ongoing debates about how justice should be carried out within Britain's prison system. As the years passed, HMP Wandsworth continued to evolve in response to the pressures placed upon it by modern criminal justice demands. While the physical structure remained largely the same Victorian fortress that had stood for over a century, the systems used to manage prisoners inside it gradually changed. Technology, intelligence gathering, and modern prison management strategies were introduced in attempts to maintain order within a facility that constantly operated at or near its maximum capacity. One of the biggest changes involved the way prison staff gather information about inmate behavior. Intelligence units within the prison collect reports from officers, analyze incidents, and track patterns of behavior among prisoners. This information helps identify potential conflicts between inmates before they escalate into violence. Officers may learn about gang tensions, disputes over debts, or plans to smuggle contraband into the prison. By monitoring these developments, prison authorities attempt to intervene early and prevent situations from spiraling out of control. Despite these efforts, the unpredictable nature of prison life means that incidents can still occur without warning. Arguments between inmates sometimes begin over small disagreements, but escalate rapidly due to the confined environment and underlying tensions among prisoners. When fights break out, officers must respond quickly to separate those involved and restore order. In some cases, additional staff are called to assist in controlling the situation and ensuring that no one else becomes involved. Search operations are another important tool used by prison authorities to maintain control within Wandsworth. Officers regularly conduct inspections of cells, communal areas, and prison yards in an effort to locate prohibited items. These searches may uncover hidden drugs, mobile phones, improvised weapons, or other contraband that inmates attempt to keep out of sight. Discovering such items is critical to preventing violence and maintaining the security of the facility. Mobile phones have become one of the most challenging forms of contraband in modern prisons. Small enough to hide easily, and powerful enough to connect inmates with the outside world, These devices allow prisoners to maintain contact with criminal networks beyond the prison walls. Authorities work continuously to intercept these devices and disrupt the communication networks that rely on them. Some prisons have introduced signal-blocking technologies designed to prevent mobile phones from connecting to external networks. Although implementing such systems within older buildings like Wandsworth can be technically complicated, the prison's internal layout also plays a role in how security is managed. Each wing operates somewhat independently, with its own staff assigned to supervise the prisoners housed there. Officers become familiar with the personalities and behaviors of the inmates under their supervision, allowing them to recognize when something unusual occurs. This familiarity helps officers anticipate potential problems and intervene before situations escalate. However, staffing shortages have occasionally placed additional strain on the system. When fewer officers are available to monitor a wing, the number of prisoners each officer must supervise increases significantly. This can reduce the ability of staff to observe individual behavior closely and respond quickly to emerging conflicts. In response, prison authorities have implemented recruitment campaigns and training programs aimed at strengthening the workforce and ensuring that officers are prepared for the challenges of working in such an environment. Another aspect of prison life that receives considerable attention is the process of rehabilitation. Although Wandsworth primarily houses prisoners awaiting trial or serving shorter sentences, authorities still attempt to provide programs that encourage positive change. Education and job training remain central parts of these efforts. By giving inmates opportunities to learn new skills, the prison system hopes to reduce the likelihood that individuals will return to criminal behavior after release. These programs are not always easy to implement within an overcrowded facility. Limited classroom space, security restrictions, and competing demands for staff supervision can reduce the number of prisoners able to participate at any given time. Nevertheless, many inmates take advantage of the programs that are available, recognizing that education and vocational training can provide a path toward rebuilding their lives once they leave prison. For prisoners who have families outside the prison, maintaining those relationships can play an important role in rehabilitation. Visits from family members, phone calls, and letters help inmates remain connected to the world beyond the prison walls. These connections often serve as motivation for prisoners to behave responsibly and plan for their future after release. Prison authorities generally support these relationships while maintaining strict security procedures to ensure that visits do not become opportunities for smuggling contraband. Legal representation is another important part of life for many inmates inside Wandsworth. Prisoners awaiting trial frequently meet with lawyers to prepare their defense or discuss the progress of their cases. These meetings usually take place in designated interview rooms, where confidential conversations can occur under secure conditions. For many prisoners, these discussions represent critical moments in determining how their cases will unfold in court. The relationship between prisoners and staff is complex and often shaped by the realities of daily life inside the prison. Officers must enforce rules and maintain authority while also interacting with inmates in ways that prevent unnecessary hostility. Professionalism and communication are key elements in managing these interactions effectively. Experienced officers often rely on their ability to remain calm and observant, understanding that respect and consistency can reduce tension within the prison environment. Over time, some prisoners adapt to the routines of incarceration more easily than others. The structured nature of prison life can create a sense of predictability that helps certain inmates cope with confinement. Others struggle with the psychological challenges of isolation from the outside world. For these individuals, mental health services and support systems within the prison become especially important. As one of the busiest prisons in London, Wandsworth continues to play a crucial role in the functioning of the city's criminal justice system. Every day, prisoners arrive from police custody or return from court hearings, keeping the facility in constant motion. This steady flow of individuals moving through the prison creates an environment that is both dynamic and demanding for the staff responsible for maintaining order. Outside observers often view prisons through the lens of dramatic incidents or high-profile cases. But the reality of life inside facilities like Wandsworth is defined more by routine than by spectacle. The daily schedule of meals, checks, work assignments, and lockup times continues, regardless of what occurs beyond the prison walls. For prisoners and staff alike, this routine forms the structure around which everything else revolves. Even so, the pressures faced by Wandsworth reflect broader challenges confronting correctional systems across many countries. Overcrowding, aging infrastructure, staffing shortages, and the complex needs of modern prison populations require constant adaptation. Each new policy or reform effort attempts to address these issues while preserving the fundamental purpose of prisons within the justice system. And as the prison continues its daily operations behind thick brick walls and guarded gates, the story of Wandsworth remains an ongoing chapter in the evolving history of Britain's approach to crime, punishment, and rehabilitation. One of the reasons HMP Wandsworth remains widely discussed across the United Kingdom is the number of notable prisoners who have passed through its gates over the decades. Because of its location in London and its role as a major remand prison, many high-profile suspects are temporarily held there while awaiting trial. Some of these individuals have been connected to organized crime, high-value financial crimes, and violent offenses that attract significant media attention. When these prisoners arrive, additional security precautions are often implemented to ensure their safety and prevent conflicts with other inmates. The presence of well-known prisoners can sometimes influence the atmosphere within the prison. Other inmates may attempt to interact with them out of curiosity or for status within the prison hierarchy. Officers must manage these situations carefully to prevent confrontations or disruptions. In many cases, prisoners who attract public attention are placed in specific wings or units where their movements can be monitored more closely. The prison's long history also includes moments that have drawn national scrutiny. Over the years, investigations and inspections have revealed concerns about conditions inside the facility. Reports from prison oversight bodies have described overcrowded wings, maintenance issues, and difficulties maintaining consistent supervision due to staffing shortages. These findings have often sparked debate among policymakers and the public about how prisons like Wandsworth should be modernized or restructured. The issue of overcrowding remains one of the most persistent challenges. When prisons operate beyond their intended capacity, nearly every aspect of daily life becomes more difficult to manage. Officers must supervise more prisoners, facilities wear out more quickly, and tensions among inmates can increase as personal space becomes limited. Experts in criminal justice frequently warn that overcrowding can create conditions where rehabilitation programs are harder to deliver and security risks become more difficult to control. In response to these concerns, government officials have periodically announced plans to improve prison conditions across the country. Some proposals involve building new facilities designed with modern security systems and improved living environments for prisoners. Others focused on expanding rehabilitation programs and exploring alternatives to incarceration for certain offenses. However, implementing these changes often requires significant funding and long-term planning, making progress slower than many advocates would prefer. While these debates continue, the reality inside Wandsworth remains shaped by the daily routines of prison life. Officers move through the wings, conducting regular checks. Prisoners attend scheduled activities when available, and the controlled environment of the prison continues to operate according to established procedures. For many inmates, the passage of time becomes one of the most significant aspects of their experience. Days, weeks, and months follow the same structured pattern, reinforcing the sense of separation from the outside world. Communication with family members can help prisoners maintain a sense of connection beyond the prison walls. Visits, phone calls, and letters provide opportunities for inmates to stay informed about events happening in their lives outside the facility. These connections are often considered important factors in supporting rehabilitation, as maintaining relationships with family and community can influence a prisoner's ability to reintegrate after release. However, maintaining these connections can be challenging. Travel distance, scheduling restrictions, and security procedures sometimes limit how frequently family members can visit. For prisoners whose families live far from London, arranging visits may be especially difficult. In these cases, phone calls and written correspondence become the primary means of maintaining contact. Another area that has received attention from prison inspectors is the condition of some living areas within the prison. Because the building is more than a century old, certain sections require ongoing maintenance and renovation. Efforts to improve sanitation, repair damaged fixtures, and modernize infrastructure continue as resources allow. These improvements are often carried out gradually so that the prison can remain operational while upgrades are completed.
Ever wondered what life is really like inside one of Britain's most infamous prisons?
Today, we're taking a look behind the walls of HMP Wandsworth, a place that holds a mirror to the immense pressures facing the entire UK prison system.
This isn't just about bars and cells. It's about the human stories and systemic challenges unfolding every single day. Wandsworth is one of the most overcrowded prisons in the country. Imagine a space designed for around 900 men now housing over 1,600. isn't just a number, it means two. Sometimes three people crammed into cells built for one. The strain this puts on everything, from basic sanitation to staff resources, is enormous. Staff shortages are a critical issue. With fewer officers on the wings, maintaining order and safety becomes a monumental task. This lack of supervision can lead to a rise in violence and a breakdown in the crucial relationships between staff and inmates, which are essential for rehabilitation. Healthcare inside is another major concern. Getting a simple GP appointment can take weeks, and access to specialized medical care is even more difficult. This is particularly dangerous for inmates with chronic conditions or urgent health needs. But perhaps one of the biggest battles being fought is against addiction.
A huge number of men entering Wandsworth are struggling with substance dependency.
The prison offers programs and support, but the sheer scale of the problem is overwhelming.
Drugs are often smuggled in, creating a vicious cycle of addiction, debt, and violence that undermines any effort at rehabilitation. Think about it. How can someone focus on turning their life around when they're trapped in the grip of addiction or fear? So, what does a typical day look like? For many, it involves long hours locked in their cells, a practice known as banging up. This isn't just boring. It's mentally crushing. Limited time out of the cell means less access to education, work, or even just fresh air in the yard. These activities are the building blocks of rehabilitation. They provide purpose, skills, and a chance for personal growth.
When they're cut back, the path to a better future becomes much harder to find.
The lack of meaningful activity can lead to a sense of hopelessness, which only fuels the cycle of reaffirmation.
The situation at Wandsworth reflects a nationwide crisis.
Overcrowding, staff shortages, and a lack of resources are crippling prisons across the UK. These aren't just holding facilities. They are supposed to be places of reform. But when the system is stretched to its breaking point, the focus shifts from rehabilitation to simple containment. This has long-term consequences, not just for the individuals inside, but for society as a whole. When people leave prison without the skills or support to reintegrate, the chances of them reoffending are significantly higher. It's a revolving door that costs billions and fails to make our communities safer. There are no easy answers, but understanding the reality is the first step. The dedicated staff working under immense pressure and the individuals trying to turn their lives around deserve a system that works. It's a complex issue that requires a national conversation about what we truly want our prisons to achieve. Is it just punishment, or is it about creating a real chance for change?
The story of Wandsworth forces us to ask these tough questions.
After processing is complete, the prisoner is assigned to a cell and introduced to the routines of the prison. For many individuals, this moment marks their first experience inside a correctional facility. The sudden transition from the outside world to the controlled environment of prison can be overwhelming. Some prisoners experience anxiety or fear as they adjust to the strict rules and limited freedoms that define life behind bars. Over time, many inmates begin to adapt to the structure of prison life. The predictable routine of daily schedules provides a framework that helps some prisoners cope with confinement. However, the adjustment process varies greatly depending on the individual. Prisoners who have previously served time may adapt more quickly because they are already familiar with the rules and expectations. Those experiencing incarceration for the first time often face a steeper learning curve. Inside the wings of Wandsworth, social dynamics play an important role in shaping the daily experience of prisoners. Informal hierarchies sometimes develop among inmates, influenced by factors such as age, background, reputation, and connections to criminal networks outside the prison. While prison authorities attempt to prevent the formation of organized groups that could threaten security, these social structures can still emerge within the prison population. Officers must remain aware of these dynamics as they supervise the wings. Understanding how prisoners interact with one another allows staff to identify potential conflicts before they escalate. For example, if tensions begin to develop between certain individuals or groups, officers may decide to separate them by transferring one of the prisoners to a different wing or cell. Conflict resolution is a constant part of prison management. Minor disputes may involve arguments over shared space, noise levels, or personal belongings within the cell. More serious conflicts can arise from deeper issues, such as debts, rivalries, or gang affiliations. Officers receive training to de-escalate these situations and restore order, while minimizing the risk of violence. The prison also maintains disciplinary procedures for inmates who violate rules. Depending on the severity of the offense, consequences may include loss of privileges, additional restrictions, or temporary placement in segregation units. These measures are designed to enforce discipline, while maintaining the safety of the wider prison population. Segregation units serve as controlled environments for prisoners who require closer supervision. Inmates placed in these units may be separated from the general population due to violent behavior, security concerns, or their own protection. Conditions in segregation are typically more restrictive, with prisoners spending most of their time alone in their cells under heightened monitoring. While discipline is necessary to maintain order, prison authorities also recognize the importance of providing opportunities for rehabilitation. Educational courses, vocational training, and behavioral programs aim to help prisoners develop skills that may reduce the likelihood of reoffending after release. These programs are often viewed as essential components of a balanced correctional system that focuses not only on punishment but also on long-term social outcomes. One of the challenges facing rehabilitation programs in Wandsworth is the relatively short stay of many inmates. Because the prison houses a large number of remand prisoners who may be transferred once their cases conclude, there is sometimes limited time to complete structured programs. This reality makes it more difficult for authorities to provide consistent rehabilitation opportunities to every prisoner. Nevertheless, some inmates do manage to benefit from the programs available within the prison. Completing educational courses or vocational training can provide a sense of progress and purpose during incarceration. For prisoners approaching the end of their sentences, these achievements may also improve their prospects for employment and stability once they return to the community. Outside the prison, public perception of Wandsworth has been shaped by decades of media coverage and political debate. News reports frequently highlight issues such as overcrowding, staffing challenges, and the need for modernization within the prison system. These discussions often raise broader questions about how societies should balance security, justice, and rehabilitation within correctional institutions. Government officials continue to examine ways to address these concerns through policy changes and investment in prison infrastructure. Plans for building new prisons, expanding rehabilitation programs, and improving staff recruitment are part of ongoing efforts to strengthen the system. However, implementing these reforms takes time, and facilities like Wandsworth must continue operating while these changes gradually unfold. For the people who live and work inside the prison, the broader policy debates may feel distant compared to the immediate realities of daily life. Officers focus on maintaining order and safety during their shifts, while prisoners navigate the routines and restrictions that define their time in custody. The rhythms of prison life continue day after day, shaped by both long-standing traditions and evolving management strategies. And as the prison continues to operate within its historic walls, the story of Wandsworth remains a living example of how institutions adapt to the pressures of modern society while carrying the weight of their past. The experiences of those who pass through its gates, prisoners, officers, and staff alike, form part of a continuing narrative about justice, accountability, and the complex reality of life inside one of Britain's most recognized prisons.